As I've released the various martial body courses for the 6 different bodies, by far the most popular has been the Connected Body Foundations course. And in this video we're going to be looking at why the Connected Body is so appropriate to any martial artist, how we train it, and what the Connected Body is. Let's dig in. So the Connected Body is the first of the developmental stages of martial body training. In this section we actually start to build tissues and tissue associations so as to create whole body connected power. This process creates what I call the taut body, and it removes slack in the system so that as we move any part of our body, every other part of the body is connected to that motion. This means that every time we move with whole body power. It doesn't matter whether we're moving a millimeter or a foot. Every part of that movement is filled with the power of the entire body. And this is perhaps why it's so popular. It gives us this feeling of strength when we're working with a partner. They'll perceive us to be extraordinarily strong, and it's actually not the classical definition of strength where a muscle group or a muscle may be very strong. Instead, it's that every ounce of our body is working to actually produce a certain direction or force. This whole body unity and the power that it creates is the result of specific training methods. And these training methods involve linking together whole chains of tissue. We have 5 of these chains of tissue that we focus on, especially in the fundamentals or foundations. And these are the crotch arch, which is the link of the legs between the feet. So if you imagine from one foot to another, drawing an arch, much like the arch of a bridge, this is the connection that we're aiming to develop when we work on the crotch arch. This provides us with a stable base and strength in the legs. Traditionally, this would be trained with horse riding stances or horse stances, but we do it in a very specific way. Once this crotch arch is built, we start to work on the axis, and the axis can be defined in many ways, especially in various martial arts. But here we are talking specifically about the chains of tissue along the front central channel and back central channel of the body. We also then work on the sidelines, which are the lines of tissue that run from the outside of the foot, which is the sort of equal opposite to the crotch arch, all the way up outside the knee, traditionally called the IT band, up through the iliac crest of the hips, up through connecting the top of the hip to the lower rib cage, and then up through the rib cage to the armpit. This chain constitutes what I call the sidelines. We also then work on the arm bridges, and this is the lines of tissue from the hand all the way through to the other hand, and we're working on the front and back and underside lines of this chain. This sort of connection between the hands is very similar to the bridge in the legs, and it's a connection that means that we can transfer power evenly between the hands. And then we have the cross-body connection. This links the opposite hand and foot together, and this is sometimes called the spiral line in the body, and what this does is it allows us to transfer force diagonally through the body in oblique movements and things like that. So what we try to do is develop these 5 lines in a very clear and methodical way. And as this development of the tissues begins to appear, we start to create power in all of the major directions, the forwards and backwards, side to side, across, left and right, all the different directions that we can move our body in. We're creating these chains of tissue that fuel and power movement in those directions. But there's another side to this whole body connection, and that is that it creates what I call the taut body state. And this state means that there's never any slack in the body. We're never in a position where, as we're applying force in one direction, another area of our body is emptying out and becoming slack. Now, if we have slack appearing in the body as we move, What that means is that the whole body is not unified in its action. It's not connected together, and this can reduce the apparent power that we're producing. It means that eventually only a certain area of the body is creating the power. And rather than being hit by the whole body, we're just being hit by that one area of activation. So this taut body state actually produces a feeling of power that is quite unusual. You don't have to move much and you feel very, very strong. So we train these 5 lines by working on things like extension. And you'll notice in the foundations training that we reach our body into extreme extension and then start to move within that extension. And that process not only links or pulls on the tissue lines that we're trying to develop, but when we add focus and breathing and intent into these training methods, it actually starts to put demands on those tissues which encourage them to grow. So after a time, you'll feel that the tissue lines start to thicken up, and certainly some of the really high level people who I've met who have got good connection, their body feels very sort of like a thick rubber, and this is a sort of development that we can expect as the connected body starts to develop. Now these 5 connection lines that we look at in the connected body are merely the start, and as we start to develop the taut body state, we actually notice these cross connections between the major lines, and these cross connections after a while can become the sort of focus of development. We start to feel this all-round connection in the whole body, much like a spider's web. And that gives us this, it not only gives us this sense of power and strength in our movement, but it also makes our body highly sensitive. It means that if pressure is applied to one point on this spider's web of tissue, every other area starts to react. As we're pulled, they have to pull on every tissue in the body. As we're pushed, the whole body is backing that point of contact. So we become very strong in terms of the ability to be pushed and pulled. It's very hard to push and pull someone who is exhibiting the connected body attribute. So as I'm sure you can see, the results of connected body training are quite far-reaching, especially for the martial artist. It's worth remembering that we can't do any of this if we have tension in the body or if we're misaligned. So it must come after good, heavy and stable body training. It's said that connective tissue takes 10 to 15 times as long to actually develop as muscle tissue. So the connected body work takes a lot more time than if you were in the gym doing, say, bicep curls. But when you start to develop it, it becomes so apparent to your training partners. You will feel far stronger than you used to feel, and you won't look any different. And that's the very interesting part of connected body training. If you want to have a go at these various training methods, head online, go to www.MartialBody.com and click on our online training portal, and you will be able to find the Connected Body Foundations course.